It's too hot, where's my fan? Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far and welcome to today's video, which is going to be a full face of Tom Ford makeup. We're going to be deep diving into Tom Ford today. Everything going on my face is going to be Tom Ford. We're going to be seeing what we love, what's lacking somewhat for the price point. It's a pricey little brand. We don't want to be putting this amount of money down and not getting some amazing results. And some of these products are, some of them are, ooh. So if you want to know what is what, keep watching. So I'm going to start off with primer today, which is a madness. Typically, I always go eyes first, but Tom Ford is one of those brands you don't really need to go eyes first because you won't really get fallout from the shadows, and I want to use the concealer and everything to prime my eyes without, you know, cheating and using a different brand for that. So of course I'm using the Tom Ford Soft Matte Primer, the Traceless Soft Matte Primer, to use the correct words. If this is not your very first video of mine that you're watching, you'll know I absolutely love this primer. It's my holy grail primer. It beat out the Tatcha Silk Canvas some while ago now, and I really don't use other primers unless there's a specific reason, unless I'm just trying to mix it up a little bit. This is just it for me. It's very comfortable, it's very light, it melts into the skin very quickly. I don't have to wait for like 10 minutes to be able to go in with foundation. It feels lovely and hydrating on the skin. It tones down any shine and just really gives you such a smooth base for foundation. I was so shocked when I first used this because of how smooth it made my foundation look, and I've barely looked back ever since. I don't have problematic skin. I have a pretty normal skin type. I sometimes get a little shiny around my nose throughout the day as oils start coming through, but I don't have an oily skin type typically, and I don't have any dryness, dry patches, or sensitivity to speak of whatsoever. So this gives me the opportunity to sort of use my primer to kind of give me an extra bit of something. So, you know, if I'm using a matte foundation, I might use a glowy primer, but typically day to day, what I want is the smoothest canvas for my foundation, and I want my foundation to wear really well, and this is the best I've ever tried. I like the packaging, I like everything else about it. It's holy grail status. Now, when it comes to foundation, today I thought I would use the Soft Matte. This is actually my least favorite of all my Tom Ford foundations. I obviously adore the shade Illuminate foundation. That is also my holy grail foundation. I also really like the stick foundation, but one, you guys have seen me apply the shade Illuminate a million times. You guys get it. You know what it looks like on me. You know I love it. And the stick foundation I used really recently and showed you when I showed you my holiday like makeup go-to look. That's where you can see me use the stick foundation recently. So this one, the Soft Matte, I haven't used on my channel or in life for a long time. It is my least favorite, but I still love it. It's such a nice foundation, but as you can tell from the name, it's matte. So it's just not like my typical preference for a foundation. It has the same sort of twist up packaging with a pump as the primer, and it used to very much be like my go-to event, evening, date night, drinks with the girls foundation until the Hourglass came along, and that one kind of took this one out slightly. The reason being, it's just got, the Hourglass has just got that little bit more luminosity to it. I'm mixing two shades today because I literally have like my kind of middle, like end of summer shade and my stark winter shade. So I'm kind of in between those two shades at the moment, so mixing them together is perfect. Oh, by the way, I should tell you what those shades are. So we have Fawn and Sepia. So that is like the absolute lightest shade I can ever use. And then Sepia is like my kind of darkest summer skin tone. I can't remember why. Neither of these are kind of my go-to shades. Typically in winter I use Shell Beige, and then in summer I use, can't remember, is it bronze or something? I feel like something to do with bronze in the name. Can't remember, but these two together right now are perfect. But this used to be, you know, if I was going to a wedding, if I was going out to dinner, if I knew there was going to be flash photography, I just wanted a really nice, like, glam, full coverage look that I knew was going to wear well and be really flattering and refined, but photograph well as well in, you know, daylight and under flash. This would be my foundation of choice. It's beautiful, very flattering, very smooth, flawless, really nice coverage. It's like a medium to full, I would say, you can get out of this. Tom Ford have great shades for me. Their undertones are so nice, so natural. I love everything about it, other than, like, you know, to become a holy grail for me that I really use frequently, it's too matte. And like I said, the Hourglass has kind of gazumped this now as my go-to event foundation, just because it has everything that this one has with just a bit more luminosity, which is just my personal preference. But if you have an oilier skin type, or you just like a more matte finish, this is an excellent choice as far as events, evenings, something that photographs beautifully, something that wears beautifully, that's very flawless. Really great coverage, very, very smooth, flattering on texture. It's a great foundation. And to say that this is like my least favorite, but it's this beautiful, I mean, Tom Ford can do complexion products, okay? That's no lie. So concealer, you guys know the soft matte traceless concealer is my favorite from the brand. It's their little stick cream concealer. Now, not that I didn't like this initially, but I didn't love it. It took me a little while to get used to it. It's very different using, you know, a cream concealer to a liquid, which is what I usually use. So it's taken me a little while to come to terms with the change, to get to know it. And now I love it. I took this on holiday with me, and that's where I really began to, like, fall in love with this concealer and really appreciate it, because one, it's really travel friendly, being, you know, a stick and a cream, and two, because I don't like to travel abroad with, like, powders, especially not my Pat McGrath, like, setting powder, because it's very fragile, that powder, and if it gets knocked or dropped, I knew it would smash. So I didn't want to travel with that in my case, and so therefore I took this cream concealer because I thought I can take it out with me and touch up, and I can use it probably without needing to set it as much, and I just loved it. I felt like it did so well in the hot weather, in the evenings. I never set it because I didn't take, like I said, setting powder, and I thought I'd need to, you know, sort of just tap it out throughout the evening in order for it to look decent, but I didn't. It wore so well, it did so great. Literally no noticeable creasing really whatsoever, even without setting it, and it has become a real favourite. I also have tried the Shade and Illuminate concealer, which I really like. It's really nice. It's crazy expensive, as per most things from the brand. Very luxurious packaging, you know, much flashier than this one, more along the lines of the Shade and Illuminate foundation bottle, but it is quite a heavy, sort of creamy concealer. It's very thick, so as much as that it goes on beautifully and it looks really lovely when everything is all said and done, I just don't love the consistency of it. It feels a little heavier going on during the application process. So I love it, but it being like twice as expensive as the majority of my Holy Grail concealers, I felt like it was just about, you know, on a par. So, you know, I'm not going to spend double for it to be the same as like my Pat McGrath, my Huda, my Dior, etc. You know, it's nice, it's a great concealer, but I didn't think it was worth twice the price point of those others. So for bronzer, this is the Glow Bronzer in the shade Terra. This is one of the newest, if not the newest, products from Tom Ford that I've added to my collection. Really, I picked this up because I wanted to make my video about neutral bronzers, like less orange bronzers, and this was one that I had heard a lot of people talking about being a very nice natural. You can see how much I've used this, it's a mess, but I really like how natural this is. It's called like the Glow bronzer, but I really don't see much luminosity from it. I feel like it's a pretty natural finish bronzer, but yeah, I don't really see it being glowy. I wouldn't describe it as glowy, but it is gorgeous. I do think it's beautiful. It's not orangey, it's not too warm for my preference. It's a nice neutral bronzer, I would say, and just very easy to use, very buildable, but very natural, melts into the skin seamlessly, and just like the perfect shade. I just think it's so flattering, so natural, so understated, very easy to use. And the packaging of this, I mean, most Tom Ford packaging, you can't really complain. So I'm going to go on to eyes now, just to mix it up, just because, you know, why not? And I'm going to use the Hazy Sensuality quad. This is my most recent Tom Ford quad. I wouldn't say it's my favourite quad I've ever tried from Tom Ford. I think that would be Daydream. I nearly said Daylight. Daydream. That is my favourite Tom Ford quad, but it is gone. It was a limited edition and I couldn't find it online anywhere, so I thought, I'm not going to torture you with it. I'm going to use one that I think you guys will be able to actually get. By the way, I've put the concealer all over my eyes as like primer, but I haven't set it. So yeah, that may be a mistake, but we're going with it. I only just realised that I did that. That was not intentional. Oopsie daisy. But everything is coping well. I will say, I think eyeshadow is probably one of my least favourite makeup products from Tom Ford. It's never that I found them problematic. I've never found them like, you know, too patchy or like hard to blend. Everything is easy to work with, but I just find myself like screaming out for a bit more impact, especially when it comes to the shimmers. I'm always feel like the shimmers are a little bit lacking for my preference. They're a little bit understated, they're a little bit too subtle, and I just feel like 9 times out of 10 I'm like, oh, I wish it just had like a bit more kapow, you know, to the shimmers. So they're not my favourite eyeshadow brand, but they are lots of people's. I think it's just not my preference when it comes to eyeshadow. I think the packaging is delightful. I think they do a lot of repetitive colour stories as well. That's the only other kind of problem with their eyeshadows. It's like if you've got a few of their palettes, you've kind of like got them all, you know? That's another reason why like Daydream sticks out to me, because it's actually like a special colour story for the brand. It's very different, it stands out, it is actually really impactful as well. A lot of Tom Ford shadows are like their wet dry formula, so you can use them wet or dry, as you might have guessed. So you can get a little more impact out of, you know, using a bit of Fix Plus or using a bit of like a damp brush, a bit of setting spray on the brush, and that's going to give you a bit more impact. But yeah, I still just feel like, oh, I need more most of the time with Tom Ford shadows, you know. But this shade in here, this shade, what I've done so far, by the way, I should have explained. I used this shade kind of all in the crease and all over the eye, and then this one on the outer third, and now I'm using this shade on the lid. And I think this is where I was like, oh, okay, Tom Ford can make a pretty shadow. This actually has some impact, some shimmer, and I am using this dry, by the way. I'm not using the damp brush, I'm not using setting spray, and actually this has a pretty lovely little bit of wet look luminosity, which I was pleasantly surprised when I picked up this palette. I thought, oh, I'm just going to be disappointed by it again, because Tiger Eye was so disappointing to me because it was just so like, bleh, you know, blah, lacking, you know. So when I tried this, I fully had no expectations to like it, and then I did, and it was really down to, one, the combination of colours. I just think it's really pretty, and it doesn't really look, you know, when you look at the palette, You don't think, wow, that's wildly different to anything I've ever seen before. But actually on the eye, it's pretty eye-catching and pretty. Pretty eye-catching and pretty. Who'd have thought it? Now, the one item that I don't have from the brand is mascara, because one, they're really expensive and I've just never heard anything good about them. I've never heard anyone raving about Tom Ford mascaras, and looking at the wands and looking at the brushes and the claims and everything, I just don't think there's one there screaming, pick me up, buy me for £50. I've never felt that way about Tom Ford mascaras, so I'm going to use my Benefit Roller Lash. This is the one item I don't have from the brand. So if you know something I don't, if you have a Tom Ford mascara recommendation for me and I'm missing out, let me know in the comment section down below. But I feel like there might be a new mascara coming from Tom Ford soon, because I feel like that is definitely a neglected category, a weak category for the brand. And typically we see, you know, brands who've got any common sense are going to fill those gaps in their offering when they've got, you know, a weak product, a product that isn't sort of holy grail status for anyone. They're going to work on it. So hopefully we might see a mascara I'm interested in trying from the brand soon, hopefully. Okay, so we're going back to the skin, back to the cheeks, and I'm going to be using their highlighter. I used this recently in a video, a trying new makeup video, that's the one. This is the Soleil De Feu in the shade Oasis. Now, if you watch that video, this is a like for me, but not necessarily a love. It's just a little too like metallic, it's a little too opaque. I don't love a lot of colour to my highlighters. I like them to be sort of more subtle, more luminous and smooth, and this one is quite metallic for my taste. It's a little too highlighty for my taste. I am using my Sonia G Fan Pro, and this definitely allows you to get a more diffused, softer look, but despite that it's still pretty intense, and it really does emphasize texture a little bit as well, which again I don't love. So the highlighters, not my favorite product. They're not horrible, I don't hate them, but yeah, a little too much just for my personal taste when it comes to highlighter. So for blush, years ago I had a blush, I want to say, was it called Flame or something? I had a single blush from Tom Ford that they seem to have like discontinued their single blushes, but as I spoke about in my Weebie recently, there are new single blushes coming from Tom Ford, but they do have these duo pans, which I'm not as big a fan of as I was this Flush. Was it called Flush? Flush? Something like that was the name of this blush. I can't remember. Flush blush? That sounds too good to be true. But this is the shade Peach Poison, and it's their split pan. I like these. I just don't think they're as nice as their original single blushes, which were really glowy and gorgeous, and these for me are just quite average of a formula. There's nothing exciting about them. They're fine. They are blushes. They give me some colour to the cheeks, but I think the formula is kind of underwhelming. It's not special, it's not exciting, and I think the same thing about the colours available as well. The shades that are on offer are just like, okay, they're like every other blush we've ever owned in our lives. I definitely feel like Tom Ford can step up their blush offering. At the moment it's lacking, it's lackluster. Please bring back the single glowy glorious blushes that we loved before in a huge plethora of shades. Now don't get me wrong, I don't hate it, I think it looks fine, but I just never use these. They're like long gone in a sort of bottom drawer of blush or cheek products that I barely ever use or reach for, because there's just nothing that draws me to it. It's just a nice average blush that's really pricey, and I feel like we could do better for the money. So I'd say those like split pan duo blushes are probably one of my least favourite products from the brand. Again, the packaging is glorious, it's beautiful. I needed more. What I would have loved is to have had like split pans that made a little bit more sense. Like we've got, you know, two completely different colours. I would have liked something that worked together, but a super glowy formula and then like a matte or a natural finish formula. That would have made more sense to me. These are both just kind of like pretty matte. I think they also were called, yeah, Shade and Illuminate Blush, which makes me believe there's going to be one that is glowy, but they're both just very, sure, you know? I don't know if you do know, but never mind. Now, lip products from Tom Ford are probably a category that I'm not as familiar with. I've tried, I think, one of their sort of satin lipsticks and it was, you know, nice, but nothing crazy. And then I tried their liquid lipstick formula. Did I have the other one? Here it is. And these I love. These are some of my favorite ever, like traditional dry down liquid mattes. I have two shades, Smitten and Lark. I think today we'll go with Lark. I think it will go more with the eyeshadow that I've done today. These are such a nice formula, very thin. Absolutely beautiful shades. I love both of these shades. Lark is this shade that I've got on my lips, and then Smitten, both stunning shades. Gorgeous, love them both. A very thin texture, really easy to apply. I love the like wand and the doe foot of these are so easy to use and get a nice crisp line very, very quickly. They feel so light and comfortable, and they do dry down. They are a liquid matte. They do dry down. They are more drying than a gloss. I'm not going to lie to you. They're more drying than like a liquid that doesn't dry down or a satin finish, hydrating, balmy type of lipstick. But for me, they are as good as it gets for a bulletproof liquid lipstick as far as how much they dry your lips out. They are the most comfortable I remember trying. Very long wearing and not that long to dry down. I've literally just applied this. I've given it a few seconds only. Absolute minimal already. This will dry down a little bit more and then until they don't transfer, and they wear really nicely and they don't suck all the life out of your lips. They're actually quite comfortable for a liquid matte lipstick and just gorgeous shades. Okay, so there you have it, a full face of Tom Ford makeup. What do you guys think? Have you tried a lot from the brand? What are your favorites? What are the flops from this brand for you? Do you feel like it's overpriced? Do you feel like it's worth the money for that bit of luxury, particularly when it comes to like the extras, like the packaging and the feel of the products? That for me makes it all worth it. For me, the absolute highlights and the sort of specialities from this brand, it's complexion. Primers, foundation, concealers are like always right at the top of my holy grails list. I feel like they absolutely nail the complexion products. It's really just what I love, that sort of really sophisticated, stunning, but still glam, gorgeous amount of coverage, but very skin-like. I really just love it. Feels very luxury to me, their complexion products. I think where I feel like the brand is lacking, where they could do better, is cheek products. I feel like their blushes and highlighters, they have quite a small offering. Not a lot that's super exciting from them. They do a lot of sort of limited edition. They don't really have a standard permanent range of highlighters. I feel like their duo blushes, they don't, you know, they no longer have single blushes. We think they're coming, hopefully sooner than later. Hopefully they're permanent. Hopefully we've got a lot of colours. But at the moment, that's kind of where I'm not in love, I'm not obsessed. I don't think it's necessarily worth the really high price point. I think their lip products are getting there. I feel like this was a really good addition to their line. The eyeshadow palettes, I don't feel like they're not good. I don't feel like they're rubbish. I think they do exactly what the brand wants. I think the brand and the lovers of the brand who absolutely adore their eyeshadow palettes, and they do perform very well. They're just not necessarily my preference for eyeshadow because they are a little quieter, a little softer. This eyeshadow palette specifically, I appreciate it. I think it's beautiful. I think it's flattering. I think it's so pretty and eye-catching. But generally, when I use a Tom Ford eyeshadow quad, I feel like it's just slightly lacking the pizzazz that I personally love from my eyeshadows that I get from Natasha Denona, Pat McGrath, more impactful shimmers. But they absolutely have their fans, their audience, and I feel like they really deliver on eyeshadow. So I don't think eyeshadow is a weakness for the brand. I just think it's not my favourite product from the brand, but the complexion products, ooh, can't go wrong. So please let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on Tom Ford. What are your favourites? What are your least favourites? What do you feel like they're lacking? What do you think they can do better? What do you think about the brand in general? I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I would love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye 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 bye.